Hello and welcome to Star Trek Lost Stars. My name is Tony, and already I can see things are heating up in the chat. Disruptors fire away, get those fusion beams off, and away we go. Hi, welcome to Star Trek Lost Stars. If this is your first time joining us, then welcome. If you're a return viewer, like a few of you are in the chat, then welcome back. Thank you for joining us live. If you're catching us on the replay, then thank you as well for joining us here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, wherever you're finding us. But if you are new and you're asking, what is this all about, then Star Trek Lost Stars is a 4X turn-based strategy game played in the Starfleet universe using the rules of Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. We and a bunch, or myself and a bunch of players, play this collectively online using a platform called Vassal, and we stream it live for you to watch as the turns progress. So without further ado, let's get into today's interesting series of topics and a new reveal, or a turn reveal anyway. So someone is a little upset. It is a big bug problem, and did we get to 13 already? Let's cover those off as we go. So let me bring up the map and start off with the thumbnail that you saw about, I think we ruffled a few feathers. So here we go. You can see here this is turn 98, and we are along the border between the Federation and the Paravians. And now you might have noticed as you kind of look at the distribution, there's an odd color in the mix. The odd color being this, the first reserve fleet, which came from the planet and base over here in Mike 30. Basically, we, as per our last live stream, we're going on a bit of a hunting trip. We saw the Algeti fleet that is parked itself on this resource and was just kind of being a speed bump for everybody, a security threat for the Paravians, and but an opportunity to be able to go in there and stir up some trouble. Not against the Paravians necessarily, just against the Juggernaut faction. To give you a quick recap on the Juggernaut faction, they are structurally with the game, they were just a replacement faction for a player that we lost early on in the very beginning of the game. As a faction, they are sort of an OP or overpowered faction within the game. They are effectively something akin to the Borg, and have ships that are really, really advanced technologically and pack a lot of punch. They have in this game, they've been packing a technology that allows them to pop up these wormholes and basically show up anywhere on the map. And as you can see down here, this J6 gravity well or one-way wormhole is the Audi, so to speak, of one of their little portals or wormholes. So they use this, came sort of into Paravian space, caused a lot of trouble, and looks like they're on their way out. One of the advantages of fighting a fleet of highly technically advanced ships is that if you defeat them, you get a bit of a tech boost. And so this is essentially a resource worth harvesting, and that's what we're doing. So we aren't able to see what the Algeti fleet is composed of, but based on the last encounter I had in Klingon space with a Juggernaut fleet, the Juggernaut fleet basically was a bunch of, it was a cruiser, a light cruiser, destroyer, and 3 frigates. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it was actually quite a punch because the cruiser itself was a mauler, which allows it basically to sort of direct or target attack specific high-value units, whether they be bases or so on. And, well, yeah, they did that and decimated a fleet that I had in the mix. So that was very sort of frustrating, but we were able to beat them. And by defeating them, we were able to get a bit of a tech boost. So that was good. I am not sure what the Algeti fleet will sort of reveal, how big they are and what have you. But as you can see here, what we've done is we've moved a tug into this particular space, which is Lima 31. And with a range of 4 supply, which is what we currently have, we are able to, we're able to have this fleet based here reach out and touch the Algeti fleet. But as you can see, they are on the wrong side of the neutral zone. So what does that mean? Well, I got a particularly heated message from the Paravians, and it reads as follows. We had thought it was some strange form of Klingon humor, the Paravians say. You issued a statement to the Horde that you were sending ships into Horde territory, which I did, with the aim of eliminating the Juggernaut exploratory squadron that has been sitting on one of our resource nodes for the last 2 years. True. You did not ask permission to send ships. You did not suggest that it would be a good idea to invite Klingon assistance. You simply stated that you were sending ships into our territory. I did. For a species that gets very prickly about any in violation of their own territory, actual or perceived, you show no regard for the territorial rights of others. He's absolutely correct. We do not care if you are going to engage the Juggernaut Squadron. We do not care if your Emperor is sending us a gift of the entire 1st Klingon Reserve Fleet. We do not care if it is just a navigational error. Withdraw your ships now. Take them back to Klingon space, Federation space, or the center of a black hole for all we care. Get them out of our space now. If they are still in our space in 6 months, then they become a legitimate target of war. Interesting. To our friends in the Borak Star League and the Tholian Fifth Ep, please consider this unilateral action by the Klingon Empire in your future dealings with them, and know that that it is their action alone that will precipitate another open conflict with them should they persist. This is our only communication on this matter. There will be no further discourse. Stonefeather. So that's pretty clear, I think. It's pretty clear. The Tholian Fifth Ep did respond in this same thread of communication. They said, it seems an appropriate moment to mention the swarm bedeviling the Tholian-Klingon border. Can we be of assistance? We would prefer mutual cooperation on such issues to war. So I think it's a very interesting choice of words in that regard. It would seem that the Tholians are recognizing sort of the calculations of the situation, that the Tholians wouldn't necessarily be able to stop a Klingon incursion into their space, although it would certainly cause a huge ordeal. And so they're preemptively trying to sort out what we're going to do with the swarm. That's the bug problem. And we'll get to that in a moment. And just to get his finger in the mix, the Borak faction, or the Batman faction, as I like to call them, those guys who are black and yellow on the map, they added this little nugget. Comstar, First Circuit Compound, Hilton Head Island, so obviously some 5-star resort, North America Terra, 29 January 1114, so it's year 1114 in the game. Attending the weekly galactic briefing, Primus Mindo Waterley, what a name, stared at the display showing the pulsing gray triangles of the Klingon fleet on the wrong side of another border. What does the Reconnaissance Operations Ministry have to say about this surprise? She stares at her precentor, Rom. I'm assuming that's rank. Clearing his throat, the precentor answers, there was no chatter and no warning. This operation was unexpected. It was. Turning to the Anastasius Fuck, a very strange word or name or rank, label, whatever this is. Turning to the Anastasius Fuck, F-O-C-H-T, by the way, not some other spelling there, and Precentor Marshall. What is your analysis of this situation? The Klingons have not officially declared war on the Praevians again. I would have been informed. Fuck states, or Fuck takes a moment to drag his gaze, looks like that's a name, takes a moment to drag his gaze away from the plotting table. It appears that the Klingons are acting without a concerted plan. They were thwarted the first time, so they are trying a less honorable and more diplomatic, light route, which appears to fit better to their skill set. Backhanded compliment there. Perhaps hoping to catch the Praevians while they are distracted by the Juggernauts. Mindo ponders the information. If they cross this line, she draws on the map with her finger, then enact Operation ... So it's so fun because the Borak, or the Batman faction, the Game Master plays this particular faction, and he does this where he sends these communications that aren't directed at a particular player or overtly threatening in itself, but they imply a threat, they imply an action, they imply something going on. Now, whether they're actually doing it or they're just kind of like stirring the pot and getting the players thinking and getting people paranoid, whatever, it's worked on me in the past. I think it's hilarious and it's awesome. But let's go back to the Praevian response and figure this out. Let's quickly go to the map, and I'll show you sort of what's going on. So, without a doubt, everything the Praevians said are right, and they're totally in the right when it comes to A, if they had done this to me, I'd freak out. If like did to the Klingons, I'd freak out. The fact that I'm doing it without asking their permission is particularly egregious, and I did send them a message I sent them an email basically stating that, sort of like a preemptive message saying we're going to be operating to go after the Juggernaut fleet as you're not able to. We hope this will help you with your security situation, and so on and so forth. They obviously didn't like that. It was more of a statement of intent rather than a request of permission. By contrast, I did ask permission from the Federation to enter into their area of operation, which is this disputed hex zone near the border here that you can see, so that I can facilitate the operation. Now, the feds have been incredibly cooperative, nothing but a great neighbor, and they're just like happy hunting whatever we can do to help support, which is great. And what's interesting about that is, I'll get to the comments here in a sec. What's particularly interesting about this dynamic is the realities of the map. So let's just do a quick tally here on this particular map. So this is turn 98. Let's look at fleet cap for a sec. Now, we've done this before. We've gone through these numbers before, so you have a sort of a sense of what's what. Again, just going top to bottom, we've got the Borak with 80 ships with a total of 194 attack, 366 defense, fleet cap 376. Feds, they have 138 ships, largest fleet on the map. 475 attack, 630 defense. That's crazy. The Klingons have 115 ships, 446 446 attack, 456 defense, with a fleet cap 457. Notice the similar, or like within spitting distance of attack factor, but the huge delta in defense factor between the Feds and the Klingons. Very interesting, eh? And then, of course, we've got the Paravians down here. They have a total of 82 ships, 274 attack, 362 defense. So, I mean, those are just numbers. But when you look at those numbers, you can see that the number of ships between, let's say, the Klingons and the Paravians is pretty significant. That's like a 33 ship difference, which is sizable. And the delta, or the difference between the attack factors, is huge. More so than it is between myself and the Feds, for example. Also, in this particular area, like this sort of like neighborhood on the border, they got nothing. There's a huge void of bases and ships and stuff that can sort of stop us. The exception, of course, being this particular spot on this gravity well with Shrike and Home Fleet. Now, let's just take a quick look at what's in those boxes. So Home Fleet, this is the fleet that they had sort of moved down from the border with me. And it's basically, it's a sizable fleet, but it's all it's predominantly Y airships, meaning they only move 4. So you got 3 modern or middle era, let me try that again, 3 M era destroyers and an M era cruiser, which are, these are good. They're 5.55 even for the Ds, for the destroyers, and an 8 straight for the cruiser. And those are good ships. And, he's got what is this? This is 15 YFFs, which is nothing to sneeze at as far as a number of ships. A Y or a cruiser, commando, light cruiser, and so on. So, like, this is not a fleet to sneeze at. It's actually very respectable. A Shrike fleet, by contrast, is even more impressive. It is. So, I really like this fleet. Like, this is a significant punch. So he's got a total of, looks like 5 cruisers, which, to give you a sense, that's a 40-40 little pack of ships. Those are good. Straight 8 ships, those are very good. He's got a CL, which is 6. He's got a bunch of these destroyers. So 9, 10, 11 of these guys, which is a 55 split. He's got some frigates in here, which 6 of them, obviously, so it's a 24 straight. So what's interesting about that is that instead of his frigates being a 5.5, they're a 4.4. And I mean, not a huge difference, but those are good. And he's got some Y era, like a Y era tug with this mothership pod. So when I look at this fleet, I see 2 things. I see, one, in the short term, this is we'll call it a stopgap. It's or doorstop. It is designed to be able to stop any further progression from the Fed fleet. Now, when you look at the Fed fleet, I don't think they're going anywhere. Their objective here is to creep this neutral zone forward and just do that. And I don't think there's any motivation on the Fed side to do anything else. In addition, you look at the fact that this gravity well pops out on the other side over here where Third Fleet and Battlefleet 3 are. Let's take a quick look at those. So Battlefleet, oh, that's Klingons, whoops. Battlefleet, so Third Fleet and Battlefleet 3. So let's just take a second. You've got 9 light cruisers, these are straight 5 ships, so same as his destroyers. You've got frigates, which are they're like 3-4 ships. They're not quite as good as his frigates. He's got cruisers, which are a little bit less, just a little bit. They're 7/8 as opposed to a straight 8. And then he's got these sort of corvette things, which are just basically fodder. So he's got a total of, if you combine these two fleets, he's got a total of 11 light cruisers, which is very similar to the destroyer count. He's only got, like his CAM and OCAM, they're effectively equivalent ships, although they look different, obviously. But they're equivalent ships as far as their straight numbers. So he's got 3 cruisers to the 5. Was it 5? 4? 4 before. And then he's got 3 frigates, so 9 frigates, a scout, which is huge. That gives you an EW advantage, and then these chaff. So when I compare those two, sort of, if I look at Shrike Fleet as the sort of the thing that's going to pop through, it looks as though Shrike Fleet is going to, because he gets to move first, he has initiative, he's going to decimate Third Fleet, because he's got 5 of these straight 8 cruisers to the 3. He's got 11 of these DDs, which ties up with the CLMs. He's got 6 frigates, which, you know, is comparable to the frigate count. I mean, it's 9 to 6. Got it. And then, of course, the Feds have these Corvette cruisers or Corvette ships, which are just, you know, they're more chaff. So actually, I take that back. It's not going to be a straight. It's not going to be a cleaning of the clock. But if the Peravens are able to pop through and do a significant amount of damage, or basically decimate Third Fleet and Battlefleet 3, then that's huge. If you look at Fed Fleet, the Fed Home Fleet, which is the only fleet that would be in between that wormhole and the and the homeworld, he's only got 6 Y era frigates. So depending on how successful the attack is, let's look at the Fed capital. Oh man, so he's definitely not going to mount any kind of capital assault, because the base and ground base fortifications there are too strong to take. But it means that he's going to be able to effectively operate there without any hassle. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Battlefleet 4 can move to support Third Fleet, but that would be a move that would come after Shrike Fleet went through. So if Shrike Fleet did that, they would proceed through this gravity well, decimate Third Fleet and Battlefleet 3, and it would basically be a toe-to-toe battle. They would both lose significant amounts of ships in the fight, and then what? If there were enough ships left over, Shrike could continue to pop a couple of these YBSs and just cause disruption and a pain in the butt for the Feds. But interesting, like it's an interesting option. Let's go on to our bug problem. So as you may have seen in our last turn, we had what was called the swarm show up, and a couple things happened with the swarm. So first of all, the swarm attacked a base station, a YBS, and here in the map that you'll see here in a second, they destroyed it, as well as a destroyer, basically an F4. F4? Yeah, it was an F4J, which are these penal ships that I'd sent down to just help support the base. And I had no idea how strong or how weak the swarm was going to be. And the swarm totally decimated me. There were apparently two groups in the swarm. One group was destroyed in the battle, and then one group survived. Now, I sent a fleet of ships to deal with them, and I will, before I show you the map, let me just, actually, I'll show you the map first, and then I'll give you the results of the battle and go from there. So here you can see there is the swarm here. This is where my YBS used to be. I had a YBS here, and it was destroyed by the swarm. Then this thing popped up, which it's, if you remember, if any of you have watched the original series, there was an episode, and I can't remember the name of it, where basically they faced this single-celled organism in space. It was a massive, giant thing, but it was basically effectively like an amoeba, a giant single-celled organism. That's what this sort of counter is supposed to represent, although the monster can be anything different. So in this hex, I have a task group that I put together. I have a 2 F4s, 5 of my E4Ms, and a D7. And I've got this ready to go to take the swarm, but then this amoeba showed up, or whatever this is, this other monster. So what I've done is, in this case, I've spent the F4s to sort of tango with the amoeba to identify it, to figure out how much I need to send to engage it, and then the rest went to go deal with the swarm. In addition, I've sent the D4E down to help with this, just to be able to identify it, because two things. One, if the D4E gets destroyed, I'm not too worried about that, because I want a new D6 E, which has better sensors to be able, so I can build it. I'm limited to 3 of those types of ships, survey ships. So I want to destroy or decommission this ship and then get a new one up and running, a new, better one up and running. So I sent those ships down there just to check it out. Now, I got a message back on what happened with those guys. So here's what happened. So the monsters have been ID'd. So the initial conflict was D7, the D4E, 5 of my E4Ms, and the E2. I lost the D7, which is frustrating as heck. But I lost the D7 and the rest of the ships retreated. However, in doing that, I identified them as 42 of these little things, and he identifies them as banshees. Now, I have no idea what a banshee is in the context of this game, so I asked the game master, what does that mean? Like, how strong are these things? What was the sort of tactical analysis of these creatures, this swarm? He says to me, 2 to 3 of them are equal to a frigate. Okay, so if I consider that somewhere between, let's call it 2.5, so 2.5 of these things are equal to a frigate, 5 of them are equal to 2 frigates. That means that, oh dear, that's like 16 and change, maybe let's call it 17 frigates. Somewhere around 17 frigates equivalent that I have to deal with. That is not a minor problem. That's a huge pain in the butt. Now, the good thing is that I only lost the D7M and that everything else was able to retreat. So let me show you, and I just got it today, moments before we went live. I will show you, because I'm looking at it for the first time, I'm going to show you the map for turn 99. And there is a small error that I'm going to have to just confirm with the game master. I think it's just a equivalent of a typo, but you'll see what's going on. This is turn 99. And if we focus in on this area right here, you will see that the swarm moved up and the ships that had engaged it moved over here. Now, here we're just showing the D4E and the E2. There should be five more E4Ms in this hex, so we won't be able to see that. But they should be there as well. In addition, I built another kind of round of ships and moved them here. So you've got a D7 and a series of 5 frigates as well. So I've got a not insignificant number of ships, now a total of 10 frigates, the D7, and that could potentially engage the swarm. Now the challenge is the the swarm is equivalent to like 16, 17 of these frigates based on what I encountered. And I'm not going to be able to do anything with them. In addition, I was getting some amplifying information via text message around these guys, in that they use bases to reproduce. So when they destroy a base, they like double. So there might have been 22 to start with, and now there's 42. Or let's say 21 to start with, and now there's 42. And if they destroy another base, well, that's what we're gonna end up dealing with. So I have to come up with an appropriate plan to deal with those. We'll see how that goes. However, that's not the only problem we have. Not only do we have the big bug problem, we've got the amoeba that you see has moved now towards sort of further into Federation space, or Klingon space, I should say. The good news is I have a task group there that can potentially deal with it. The bad news is, as you can see, a new Juggernaut fleet just popped up. And boy, is that not good for me. I have no idea how many ships are going to be in this Juggernaut fleet, but it's not going to be nothing. And that's going to be a huge pain in my butt. So we'll have to see where they go and what they do, like what direction they head. But it's going to be a huge pain to deal with those guys because, as you can see, we've got a series of things that are happening along the border here. This is the first time I'm looking at this map, by the way. So we've got the various things along the border here. Tensions are high with the Praevians, obviously, because I stepped in it by doing what I did. And so now we're in a situation where if I move anything significantly sort of out of the way, this could cause a problem. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. Now, however, let's see what happened here. So you can see there's a bunch of crippled ships. Let's look at the home fleet, the Praevian home fleet. Okay, they didn't get damaged. The Praevian Shrike fleet. Oh, they're relatively intact as well. Oh, they got 17 and 6 of those guys now. So what it looks like is Shrike fleet is growing. They may have attacked the Feds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then retrograded back to this base station. I'm not exactly sure. Let's take a quick look at the sort of the battle fleets they would have engaged. Federation, what is it? Second Fleet? Let's take a look at Second Fleet. No, Second Fleet looks intact. No issues there. Fed Battle Fleet 1. Definitely no crippled ships there. And they're out of range of Battle Fleet 2. So I'm curious what they encountered that caused so much damage. They wouldn't have been able to go through and come back the gravity well. So I'm curious what happened there. Maybe he's just moving ships that were in, had been involved in another altercation with maybe the, somewhere else, and he's moved them there. I hadn't seen that. I'll have to go back and take a look. But let's take a look at Vulture Fleet. That's a new fleet that I hadn't seen pop up. It's obviously all full of crippled ships. Why are crippled ships? So there had been something that happened over here, and he's moving them back this way. Okay, that makes sense. So he's consolidating his position here on this wormhole, and it looks like he's basically in a position where he's going to move fast and break things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, interesting. As you can see from our perspective, I've acquiesced to the Praevian request, and I moved into a position where I was going to go after the Juggernaut fleet, but the Juggernaut fleet has disappeared now, which is strange. I'm going to have to ask the GM what happened. Oh, the Praevians took the Juggernauts, maybe. You know what? That is probably what happened. They probably went after the Juggernaut fleet because they were within range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they were within range, assuming the Juggernaut fleet didn't move further south. they were within range of the Juggernaut fleet and they took it. So that's probably what happened. Yeah, totally, absolutely. That's well, good for them, because that's what they were looking to do. And they probably realized when I moved into the space to go after the Algidi fleet that that's what, I mean, that's the reason why I was doing it. So that totally makes sense why they maneuvered in that way. And obviously got a little upset about things and so on and so forth. Okay, well, that's cool. So that's that identifies or sort of resolves the Algidi fleet issue and the point of tension around the Paravians. So I'll have to send them a little message congratulating them on, decimating and destroying the Juggernaut fleet. That is sort of like a cooperative point of, like, very supportive of that. As you can see here, how did he get? Interesting. Okay. All right, we'll have to have a little discussion with the Paravians, because that having a diplomat there was specifically against our agreement. But considering where we're at in our sort of position here, we'll have to see how that goes. All right, so like I say, this is the first time I'm looking at this map. So let's do our standard round the clock. First, let's take a look at EP. As you can see, the Borak are at 70, which is impressive. The Federation is at 67.5. The Klingons are at a straight 68. The Paravians 53.5, and the Tholians are at 69.5. Wow, that means they've obviously incorporated some more of these planets. Yeah. So they've incorporated more of those planets into their empire, which is boosting their economy in a big way. So that's good. Congratulations to them. That is awesome. Yeah. No, that's really good. As we do a tour around for Fleet Cap, we will see that, once this gets sorted, we will see that the Borak are at 87 ships, so they built 7 ships last turn. That's significant. The Federation is now at a total of 146, again with a 511 attack factor, 673 defense. Wowzers. The Klingons are at 118. Lost a few ships, I think. Well, lost at least one ship. So 118 total ships, 460, 467 is the split. The Paravians are at 88, so they're in full build mode, adding 6 ships to their fleet. They are at 305, 392 respectively, and the Tholians, ooh, there you go, now up to 113 ships, still with only an attack factor of 213, but defense of 436. That's pretty significant. Okay, cool. As we can see, let's just do a quick look at the Federation map. You can see that they're slowly moving into this gray area here with their exploration cruisers. Something damaged, something got crippled here on this YBS. Maybe that was there before. I didn't notice. But that YBS is crippled. It'll be interesting to see why. As we can see, we've got 3rd Fleet and Battle Fleet 3 guarding this wormhole. Home Fleet here. And of course, not much of a change here. I bet you those new ships that were built, those new ships that were built are all in Home Fleet. That's what I guessed, which is good. That's good. So the Feds and the Paravians are having a good toe-to-toe struggle, which is great. And yeah. So what it looks like is from the Klingon perspective, we got a little house cleaning to do. We got the swarm to deal with, which is 42 ships, 42 Banshees, which is the equivalent of 16 to 17 frigates, which it'll be interesting to see if when he says that, he's referring to, for example, something like the Paravian frigate, which is a straight 5 ship, the Federation frigate, which is a 4, or my frigate, which is a 4-3. So, like if it's... if it's the equivalent of a 5, that's God, that's a lot of ships. That's 35. That's 85 attack factors equivalent. and defense factor. That is not an insignificant amount to deal with. And because of the nature of the monster, I'm gonna assume. Let me take a quick sip of water. I'm gonna assume that the swarm operates like, instead of like a normal fleet, like with our ships, we have a command ship and then the rest of the ships populate a total, usually, of around 10 ships total or 11 in a fleet on the attack line. I'm going to assume the swarm doesn't operate that way, and that either they can max populate ships on the battle line. I'll have to ask how that combat goes, because if it's 42 ships and all of those 42 ships effectively are on the battle line at one time, that is just so much offensive firepower. I don't know how I'm going to win other than whittling them down, which is going to be crazy. In addition, we've got the amoeba, which we've got to deal with, got to figure out what that is and how we're going to deal with it. And, of course, the Brachy fleet just popped up, and we got to deal with those good friends of ours. So, this is an interesting development, and we'll have to see how this goes forward. I think, wow. 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I say, we're gonna have to see how this sort of resolves and what goes forward here, because it's going to be an interesting couple of turns as I deal with this house cleaning, as we call it. Okay. So let's take a quick look here. We got, so someone was a little upset. That was the Paravians, understandably so, and for good reason. I mean, if I had a neighbor acting the way I'm acting towards me, I would be ruffled about it too. But you don't hate the player, hate the game. You know, the Klingons be the Klingons be the Klingons. I got to be true to being a Klingon. I mean, what do you expect? But in this context, I mean, from a role-playing perspective, to be clear, the Juggernauts have been identified as the great enemy of the Old Kings, and our pursuit of those elements of those factions is critical. So. Yeah, that's part of the rationale of why we're doing that. So that's what's happening there. The evolving situation with the bug problem, I don't know what we want to call this now. We got bugs, we've got amoebas, and we've got the jugs. Man, it's just like when it rains, it pours. I'm happy to deal with it. It makes it fun, but that's a lot to deal with in a short period of time. It's almost like having a full-scale war, especially with that swarm. Man, I just don't know how we're going to deal with that swarm. Let's quickly visit the commentary, the knuckleheads in the in the chat. Okay, so Paul was giving us thumbs up early on. We were talking, of course, just before the stream, or we went live here, going back and forth about warming up warp cores, getting disruptors ready, get those fusion beams ready to go. So Paul is talking about we are watch you all. Good grammar there, Paul. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but if that's you being a barbarian, excellent job. Jim making some funny comments earlier about me being a pacifist, correcting me with Algeti fleet. The Paravians took the Juggernauts. That was the comment as far as why they had crippled ships, so totally get that. And Jim, of course, taking on the role of the old kings in this context. He is playing the Hydrons and is claiming, which makes sense in the sense the Hydrons are a monarchy, and so the old kings kind of makes sense. And so he's taking on that role and is expecting me to pay overdue taxes. Why don't you send the Sheriff of Nottingham there, Jim, and we'll see how Robin Hood deals with him, so to speak. Brigands and bandits galore. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Like I say, just got turn 99 in the inbox this morning, just before we were going live. So just taking a first look at it here with you. Hopefully you're finding that as sort of entertaining as I am. Excuse me. Very, very exciting to see this evolve. and looking forward to seeing how things go forward from here. Unfortunately, because Algeti Fleet is gone, I'm going to have to withdraw or pull back my forces back to where they came from, which is fine. I mean, I'm not looking to stir things up with the Peruvians necessarily. They've got their own fight that they're dealing with. Fair enough. And I'm not really a big fan at this point of banking on like ramping up the war turns, because that just isn't going to help anybody. Oh, but before I go any further, let me deal or address the Baker's Dozen drive. So the drive to 13 players that we are engaged in to be able to get this ready for the next game. Let me just recap what that's all about. So the Baker's Dozen drive is our quest to get 13 with a push goal of 15 players into the next game. The next iteration of this game is scheduled to start probably around, I mean, we never know exactly when this game will end, but based on the sort of trajectory, we're estimating that we're looking for an early 2022 start, probably around January, and we'll see how that goes. Now, in order to move, sort of our goal for this was to get as many players into this game as possible. We only have 15 factions that we could potentially even play. So 15 is the magic number. We can't go any higher than that right now. Our goal was 13. Magic number 13, lucky number 13, Baker's Dozen, as the case may be. But the issue, or like the push goal from there was 15. Now, one issue that's come up as we've been kind of moving towards 13 is sort of a workload problem. So I put this question out to you, the community of our players and viewers, as you're watching this live stream. We play this game, and due to respect for the game, respect for ADB, the Amarillo Design Bureau, and how the rules are, we do everything manually. So we don't have, for example, a whole bunch of systems in place to automatically resolve turns and things like that. There's no sort of bots and scripts in the background that are streamlining the approach. We have the Game Master, and the Game Master does all the work of processing these turns. Now, up to this point, we've had games that have been as large as 7 players, but never really larger than that. This particular game, as you can see, like the major factions that are currently involved, there's 5 of us. We did have 6, but we lost a player. And so with 5, things go along smoothly. As you have been following along this live stream, we've been recruiting new players. That's our goal, getting to 13. And we've been integrating those players into this game. You can't see them yet, but we've been integrating these players into this game to be able to sort of learn the processes, the procedures, the tools, the spreadsheets, like how we run the turns in the game, so that when they start their own campaigns in earnest in the next game, they're not starting from scratch, and they've kind of short-circuited that learning curve a bit, and they're on board with how to play the game, and they're not learning on the fly. Because especially with a turn-based game, the mistakes you make early can have huge consequences later in the game. So it's important that you sort of sort that out early. And so right now, where are we at? As of right now, based on players who have expressed interest, players that are currently in the game, we have 13. Now, that's not 13 confirmed players. We don't have 13 confirmed players for the next game. We have 11 players confirmed for the next game, 13 who have expressed interest. So, it's a first-come, first-served situation, meaning that we are, if you express interest and you want to play and you reach out to us on the Facebook channel or the Facebook page, and you reach out to me using Facebook Messenger, and then we can connect via email. If you're sort of first on the docket through Facebook Messenger, again, first come, first serve. So technically, as of right now, we have room for 2 more. We have 11. We've up to 13 have expressed interest. So if it's the push goal, or even just up to 13, we've only got room for 2 more. So if you are interested in joining in this campaign, if you're interested in playing this F&E turn-based 4X style open campaign, Fog of War, searching out and exploring new space, expanding your borders, exploiting those resources, and as the Feds and the Peruvians are doing to each other, exterminating your enemies, then head over to our Facebook page. I will put the comments in. in the chat here in a moment, and you can head over, check us out, and sorry, I'm trying to do more than one thing at once here. Terrible to do that. But you can check us out, join the campaign, and you can be part of this in a turn-based strategy kind of way. So, yeah, if that's something you're interested in, then please head on over. Very interested to have you join us, and the more, the merrier, quite honestly. We are looking to include as many players as possible, get the biggest possible game that we can, and as an overall perspective, we are looking to grow this community as much as we can. We want to grow this channel and the Facebook page, and we want to create a community of players that that can get together, play this game, whether it's this particular next iteration that we're doing, most likely in the early part of 2022, or if we can grow this and to have multiple games going at the same time, that would be fun. And also just to be able to see like how big can we get these games. We've got 15 factions that we currently have to know how to play. Can we get more? Interesting things to find out. We'll check that out as we go forward. So I'm just going to post right now in the chat. Right there is the Facebook page. You can go and check that out on Facebook.com. That's our Facebook page, Star Trek Lost Stars. Go check us out there. If you're interested in playing, then please, follow us on the page. Message me directly, and we can get you connected. Again, 2 more spots that we have left. That's all we got. 2 more spots, and then that's it. That's all we got. That's as many factions as we have. So as of right now, what we will do is try and integrate you into the game as best as possible. As you saw on the map, we have quite a few sort of gray areas. Here, let me, I will put my head on the other side and zoom out. You can see on this big kahuna map, there's these big areas of gray, and these fog of war hexes is where the other players have been peppered, inserted in, and we'll see how that goes. We have not encountered them yet because, understandably, the Praevians are a little preoccupied with the Feds. The Tholians are continuing to grow, exciting, and the Borak, the Batman faction, are just doing their thing in the shadows, as Batman tends to do. So we'll see how that goes. But looking forward to encountering these new players in this game. It'll be interesting to see that happen, what the interaction and the personalities involved will be. That's the whole fun of this game. The more players involved, the more dynamic it is, the more engaging it is, the more fun we can have. And that's the whole purpose here, is to be able to have fun, have a good time, and enjoy our sort of Star Trek nerdom while engaging in some good old-fashioned virtual fisticuffs. All right. So I'm just going to revisit the chat one last time here. So we've got, yeah, so Jim expecting his taxes. He'll be coming for me soon. Come get some, baby. Or as Bruce Campbell used to say, give me some sugar. Come get it. Okay, so Paul is saying, we are watching you all. We are the barbarians. Very interesting. Jim, you are the ISC, Paul. You are a pacifist. Well, you don't have to play them as a pacifist. I mean, you could effectively, as the ISC, just be like a really aggressive sort of you could be like the English Empire, You're imposing peace on everybody, whether they like it or not. That's essentially what the ISC did. And Jim also adds that the GM also gets the fun of the diplomatic messages going back and forth between protagonists. So that's true. One of the sort of perks or the benefits of the GM is he requests to be part of the sort of diplomatic exchanges, the role playing that goes back and forth between folks. That way, for a couple of reasons. One, it's entertaining to see what's going on. Two, he can sort of get ahead of any issues or problems that may come up, and like maybe developing or simmering. And so he can sort that out early, get that corrected. And that has happened in the past when we had sort of some questions around rules in earlier sort of versions of the game. Less so now, just because we're quite well practiced. But now that we're going to be introducing such a large number of players into the game, there's a lot more opportunity for different things to happen. So really important to be able to include the GM in those discussions. And and you know, make sure that we're all sort of doing what is legally or what is potentially able to be done as far as the rules go. So yeah, that's sort of how we are evolving in the game. We are 2 away from our max of 15 or maybe ideal 13. It just depends on how many players we can get going. And of course, if you are interested in playing and for whatever reason we are past that magic number, then you can sort of express your interest and participate in other ways. As we did in the Patreon for this channel, you can be and participate as part of the Klingon Empire. You can engage, be a admiral of a fleet, a captain of a ship, a governor of a planet or sector in the Klingon Empire, and have your influence, your say, your contribution into how the Klingon Empire is conquering the galaxy. Now, if that's something you'd like to do and you want to sort of play co-op, and we're past the magic number 15, I'm open and willing to do something like that. But that is something that we'll have to explore as we go forward in the next iteration of the game and see how that goes. Ideally, what we're doing here is we are building as I said, a community of players who are Star Trek fans interested in this kind of game and gameplay, and we're just looking to have fun. So if you're looking to have fun and you like Star Trek and you like turn-based war games, then come on over, check us out on that Facebook page that I posted in the chat, and away we go. That being said, I guess we're kind of done for today. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Jim, cubes or granules? Interesting. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments about the Baker's Dozen, the drive to 13, maybe you have some advice you would like to share my way about how to deal with the Swarm or the Juggernaut fleet or the Amoeba. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should try and deal with them all at the same time? That's probably not the best strategy. But should I deal with them sort of based on proximity? I mean, the Swarm is sort of off on its own. It's not going to do anything to me. I think I'll be okay for a little bit. Maybe I should deal with the Juggernaut fleet first and the Amoeba. Who knows? We'll see. We'll check it out. We'll be able to figure that out eventually and be able to move forward as we go. But this has been a lot of fun today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one next week. And until then, I'm Tony, and bye for now.